Hello, LinkedIn. I think we are live. I am Moritz Spangenberg. I'm a client partner at Netguru, and it's my pleasure today to talk to you how to use machine learning to boost conversion rates along the sales funnel. So why are we talking today about this topic? Well, during the last weeks and months, I had many discussions with many different executives and managers from sales and marketing departments from many industries, from financial service, but also from other industries, and talked about current challenges and opportunities. And although there was different things which were quite interesting and that happened during the current times, one thing was very, very surprising. Many of them had a vast number of increasing number of opportunity and leads that their sales teams had to process, which is a good thing, I guess, for everyone in the organization. But the question is, if you don't want to scale your sales team directly, how do you process all those leads and opportunities? And how do you basically, how can you ensure that you have the high sales chances, that you do select the right prospects, do allocate the right amount of time also for those prospects? I'm reading a comment from my colleague Kasha that says, I'm not sure what you mean, Kasha, but I'll just continue talking. So today we want to talk about how to use machine learning, how to discover potentials to optimize the sales process. I hope you guys will help us to collect some questions, because I have not prepared any, but I have someone who has a lot of answers for us. So Kasha, could you please put Pavel to our meeting?
Hi Moritz, hi everyone in the audience.
Hello, LinkedIn meet Pavel, Pavel meet LinkedIn. Pavel is our head of machine learning and data science department at Netguru. And together with you, our audience, I would like today to ask a lot of questions to Pavel to learn basically chances, opportunities, maybe also risks on how to improve sales processes, sales organizations by using machine learning. Maybe how do we start, Pavel? So if we look at a typical sales funnel, we typically spend a lot of time, sales organization, in prospecting, in lead selections, in basically achieving anything which is called MQL, marketing qualification, sales qualification. And then at one magic point of time, we will have created an opportunity along the sales funnel, and then the sales teams need to work with the opportunity and then hopefully turn it into a closed win or into a closed loss. So maybe very high levelly, with using machine learning, which parts can we improve in the sales funnel that we just mentioned?
Yeah, of course. So I think even before we enter the sales funnel, what is worth doing is doing the client segmentation to understand actually what are the groups of clients with common characteristics that are the most profitable for our company. And then we can use those insights first with planning any marketing activities, right? Any marketing campaigns to actually target the most profitable segments for us. And second, we can also use those insights to select the potential targets, right? Prospects. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind. The second is we can do it, as you mentioned, right? We can use it to prioritize leads in the sales funnel, right? So actually score each lead at different stages in the sales funnel, and be able to focus on the most promising ones with the highest chances of success of winning it, and also with maybe highest revenue for the company. There could be different factors, right? We can also, by identifying patterns that influence gaining a client, we can use those insights and educate the sales team how they can behave, what sales activities they should do, and at which time to actually increase the probability of converting lead to another stage. Maybe depending on the data that we have available from the sales team, from the CRM system, Maybe there's a chance of recommending actions that would increase conversion probability. The simplest one that comes to my mind is what is the best time to call to a prospect, right? Depending, obviously, what is the business type, what do we sell, and so forth. And also we can use, if we score leads at different stages of the sales funnel, we can also use this score to improve the forecasting, right? So actually be more sure that actually incorporate the scoring in the forecasting for upcoming months, maybe upcoming year, right? So those are actually some of the ideas that come to my mind.
Cool. Pavel, before we so one reason that we also do this event today is because we also want to showcase to our audience some things that we learned while doing some research, while producing a POC, producing a proof of concept, and basically to share our learnings with the world doing that. Before we go into those specifics and share some data on our approach and some figures, I was going to ask you, Pavel, when we look at the opportunity stage of the funnel, right? Because we said earlier, when we have more opportunities, the companies have more opportunities, which is actually a good thing. Sales teams would need to decide, where do I allocate my time correctly, right? Yeah. So what are basically influencing factors or criteria that you see or that you saw during that exercise that have an influence on the decision that I need to make, where to allocate sales reps' time on which opportunities? How do I do it?
Yeah, of course. So maybe I'll explain a bit more. So as I'm not allowed to discuss the commercial projects that we are doing in this area, but I can discuss the project that we did internally. As you mentioned, this experiment. So we did a POC for lead scoring based on Netguru sales data, historical sales data. And what we learned is that, which is kind of obvious, but that, for example, the highest probability of winning have ops that come from existing business. So there's existing working relationship with a client. It's a returning client. Obviously, whenever we have a lead or op like that, it gets the higher probability of winning it. Again, another one is that if we had ops, the ops where we had successful project delivered in the past, but also the client was paying the invoices issued, right? That might not always be true. It also increases the chances. Another one is that
it refers to dive into this, Pavel. So increased sales chances for someone that you've closed the business with makes total sense, right? Also, when we look at typical customer acquisition costs and customer retention costs, it's much more sensible to invest time retaining a customer versus acquiring one much more cheaper. How much is there? When we look at the model, can we say also how it differentiates? For example, if we have already, closed 3 or 5 projects with a customer, that those chances also do increase with a certain factor, or is that not readable from the model in general?
Yes, exactly. So actually, I can show you something right now. So, and I have a trick. Siri, please show my screen. It worked.
Nice. Pavel.
Sorry, not this one. So what you can see on the screen is a demo application behind which we have this machine learning model for scoring leads. And on the left side, I can set, there are different features that describe this particular lead, where I can select different values for it. So for example, let's say I'll select the amount of it, how many calls or meetings we already had with a client, what is the age of the account, and what is maybe the revenue up to date. We haven't lost any opportunities. Select total price. And
see What can we see in the bottom there, Pavel? We can see there the chances that we have with the selected data that gives us a sales success, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what you can see here, actually, this part is interesting. So it gives you the probability, right? In percentage. Is it won or lost? The threshold for this is set for 50%. So if it's above 50%, it's set as won. Below it's as a loss. But also we can see in detail. So if you look at it at this visual representation, you can see that the blue part are the features and the values of those features that actually increase the probability of winning it. And the red ones are the ones that decrease the probability. And so we can also take some insights out of it and see that, for example, in this case, that we haven't lost any opportunities so far. It's a big factor that increases, right? And also that revenue to date, there was some significant amount of revenue up to date.
Okay, tells us if we've made a lot of revenue with the client, the chances are better in closing any new deals with them. Does make a lot of sense. Which factors do negatively influence our success chances here, actually?
So for sure, as I said, so for example, if we select that there were lost opportunities, right?
Yeah.
The model is recalculating. So you already see that I changed that we lost, let's say, we lost two opportunities so far, and the probability decreased a lot, right?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And if we I see we have a question from the audience, and as I said, I don't have prepared too many questions, so I'm reliant on your questions, dear audience. So we have one question which we try to answer, Pavel. Hi, you're not taking into account a customer satisfaction index, ? In Net Promoter Score, anything similar or existing customers?
No, so in this POC not, we did not use it. I'm not sure even if we had it in our data set, in our data set that we trained the model, but for sure it seems like something feasible, like a good idea to actually test it.
Would be pretty good. So if we just in theory, right? So if we would add an NPS and basically have a similar data selection as we've seen before, and we have selected that we have done 2 projects with the client, and if we would have an NPS, that would probably one factor which does increase our sales success chances again for the specific opportunity, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, yeah, cool. And maybe a very general question again, Paul, before we dive. Actually, here we do see the sales like a very general sales funnel, which was also the basis for our thinking here. Maybe a general question, because I think it's also relevant for the audience. Pavel, can any industry, any business owner, executive from any kind of industry use this kind of approach, use machine learning to boost their sales activities and chances along the funnel?
Yeah, so before I respond, again, a trick. Siri, please hide slides.
Oh, Siri is faster than on my iPhone.
Nice. So I would say yes. So I think any business can give it a try, because what this model does is it creates a model based on the data that it's trained on. So everything depends on the data that you have at hand, you have available, right? So, and I think any business, even like B2B or B2C, could use it, and companies use it. There are also existing solutions, especially for the B2C companies with the B2C model. But at the end, everything is dependent on the data that you have, right? So, for example, in your CRM, if you even have a CRM, right? So,
cool. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And talking about data, amounts of data, can you tell the audience, Pavel, how much data do I need to do this, to have a successful POC maybe?
So again, I would say it depends.
Yeah,
I know it's not.
I'm getting the answer a lot from you, Pavel.
And I get this answer a lot from my team. So So actually, so obviously, the more data you have, the better. But what also we learned from this POC and from this experiment internally, the quantity is not always, it's not the only factor, right? Important factor here. The quality is the more important factor. You can have less data, but in better quality, better describing actually the phenomenon you want to model. In this case, assessing if a lead will convert, the better the model will work. So, but I would say at least thousands of records. But it's a super simplification, right? It's hard to say. But what we learned by doing this is that the quantity wasn't the problem, but the quality of it. How actually that we not always have the history of how the data changed in time. So at which point of time some additional data information about the client, about this opportunity was added, how it changed, right? So it already affects what we can do with it. Also, we lack some data policies, data quality policies, right, in the systems, in the CRM that we use, that ensures or helps us to ensure that the data that we put in, that the sales team puts in, and other teams that actually cooperate around it, that are always the best quality, right? And that was some of the insights that we got from this learning, from this exercise.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I mean, also to again talk about the business benefits of it. I think there's a great potential in using it along the sales funnel, right? Also, if we now here for some of the audience also to use Net Promoter Score for it, I think it's a great tool to try out to free up time or to basically increase your chances on working on opportunities, right? So in the end, we all in sales want to spend the right time for the right prospects, for the right leads, for the right opportunities to increase our sales chances along the funnel. Maybe what also would be interesting for me and for the audience, Pavel, is to learn a little bit around the approach. So if we have someone interested in it, how do you tackle such a problem? So we talk about a little bit about data, right? So obviously, the more data that you have, the better and the more accurate the model will be, and the more successful you will be. But how do you start such a project?
How do you start such a project? I think by not only thinking about the technical side of it, about the machine learning or data science part of it, it's important. But also thinking, and I think it's even more important than that, is how you're going to deploy it. So, right. So, how do you plan to use it in your processes, in your business process, in your sales process? Even if it's a POC, how you want to test it? How are you going to say? Because it would be unwise to take this POC, deploy it, integrate it with CRM, and start blindly prioritizing leads only based on the score you get. Right. It's additional information that should be included by this. In our case, we call this role lead master, right? So whenever there's a lead master does the pre-qualification part, right? And it's some additional information for this lead master to prioritize the leads, right? And then, right? So I think I would start with that, thinking how to deploy it, how we're going to test it, when we're going to actually how we're going to define the success criteria, when we're going to say that, okay, this works, this model actually improved our performance, our ability to work on more promising, better leads, or not, right?
Yeah.
Which also will lead the technical team, the machine learning data science team, in iterating over the model, over the solution, and finding ways to improve it. Right? So,
yeah. Interesting that you say, Pavel. I found some research while preparing for our talk that says 70% of B2B marketers cite improving the quality of leads as the most important objective of a lead generation strategy. So I think that is very relevant. Maybe we can have a look. Pavel, can you ask maybe Siri again to maybe show us our slides and we can look at it in the funnel. Maybe that's going to be fun.
So maybe you can try it, Moritz, now.
Diri, do you listen to me? Can you show me the slides?
Ah,
oh,
it works.
Diri, can we go to slide number, I think, is it 9 or 10, where we have the sales funnel?
So I have a few slides here. Yeah, so actually first, what we can discuss is how the machine learning can be used for the prospecting. If it's fine for you.
Yes, very much.
Yeah, so basically you can look at prospecting as it's the same problem. It's the lead scoring, but at the very early stage where you have the least data points about the particular client, right? So, and here you can see the bottom icons, they present the process, right? So first of all, as I mentioned, for doing a good prospecting, would be best to start with customer client segmentation to understand which groups, which segments of clients we should focus on. And we can use Salesforce data for that and our historical data. Then we should build a database of prospects. Depending on the country and available data about companies, you can approach it in different ways. In Poland, there are public registries that you can use and access this data and build a big database, and then already use the insights you have from the segmenting to actually select only the ones that have the biggest chance for you to convert. Plus, at this stage, you can already do the scoring part, right? So additionally score each prospect to see on which actually prospects you should focus on, and I don't know, start with cold calling, cold emailing, or something like that.
So could I just reconfirm, Pavel, so if we maybe talk about inbound and outbound, right? So inbound would be, for example, interested people, contacts, leads that have registered on my website, maybe have downloaded an ebook or whatever. They have some interest in our products or services, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I've collected in 1 week 100 of those leads. And then with machine learning, I would be able to qualify or to better kind of assess those.
Yes, exactly. And also it depends on how much data you have about those leads, prospects. Actually, there's a misunderstanding or different opinions on what comes first in the sales funnel. Is it a lead or a prospect?
Yeah.
For me, it's a prospect, and then it becomes a lead.
Yes, it's always also a question of definition, right? So what is used by whom? I know it's sometimes kind of difficult. But what does that mean, for example? So thinking from what you said, if, for example, I am a software development company who is pretty strong in the financial services sector, maybe that's Netguru, would it be then possible if I have a lead that basically is from the industry, that is from financial services, that the machine tells me that my chances are better because I just know from data that most of our customers, or let's say a higher share of customers, is maybe from financial services?
Yeah, that's the simplest example, right? But it's already, you can do it based on the segmentation, right? Because you can say, okay, this potential client is from my key segment, right? But then what you can do is you can enrich the data, the information you have about this client. There are even ideas of using social media, right? So gathering data from their social channels and analyzing the data. How to actually assess how big is the client. Maybe there are some publicly available information about the financial condition in Poland. There are also registries, right, that you can take this information. You can take information about any debts the companies have, etc., etc. And actually, by collecting all this information, you create you can assess more accurately how likely it is that this is a good lead for you, right? That you should focus on, and you can use machine learning for that.
Okay, and then based on that data, I could basically, which is the next step then here on the slide, basically then probably with an automated workflow or whatever, tell my business development representatives to focus on those specific leads that I have pre-selected or that I like the most based on the data input and crunching. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And here you can see I changed the slide. So here is are the later stages, right? This actually presents a simplified version of Netguru's inbound flow. And as you can see at the pre-qualification and prioritization, we can use the scoring, obviously, and it's based on the data that we have in our CRM, which is Salesforce. But also what I mentioned just before, you can enrich also this data with liability status, annual financial reports, social media analysis, and so forth. And what value it gives you, it's like it allows your team to focus on the most promising leads, right? And make sure the best time you use their time the best possible. And then the second stage when you can do it is when we have already it converted to opportunity, and we can again using this data we are collecting through the whole process. We can score it and use the same prioritization. And what we also would like to do is the last step, right? So look for patterns in all our sales historical sales data, and try to find what are the patterns that increase the chances of closing, of winning, or just converting to another stage, and recommend those actions to the sales team. Right?
That's also interesting interesting topic. So that means if as a salesperson, I have a typical set of, let's say, sales tactics, sales weapons, right? So let's maybe think in a multi-touch ABM world where I can write emails, I can do LinkedIn, I can do phone calls, and probably some other things as well. Does that mean that we would be able then to suggest the best medium to use and the best time to basically contact a prospect or sales qualified lead?
So if we gather data from all those different touch points and different mediums that you are using, probably, yeah, at least we could try, right? We could try to see if there's a chance to recommend also the medium you should use, right? Because maybe there is some pattern that some kind of customers, clients, they respond better, quicker through, I don't know, LinkedIn, but they are not so keen on writing and responding on email, right? Or
yeah,
right? But
okay, interesting. I know that
also into if you got the data about it, and so we can then analyze it and find and get some insights out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that, for example, HubSpot has some integrated features there already, but I think it's just based on emails and not on calls or similar. But that's actually pretty interesting. Mm-hmm.
Because with emails, many CRMs actually they have this feature that in the CC field or the BCC field, you add this CRM email that actually then can store each response and everything, that all the conversation through email, right? This is
right.
how this works.
I think some even go so far that they send, if you like, do program any sequences in email and Outreach, that the CRM systems do select already the best time to contact any kind of prospects during a given time of the day. So it's actually pretty cool. Right. Mm-hmm. Cool.
So no questions.
Yes, do we have some questions from the audience, Siri? But Siri also answers this, Pavel?
No, she only listens.
But maybe we use the time, Pavel, because I also would be interested in it. So as someone who's obviously not as experienced in machine learning as you are, Pavel, so in my thought, I would, in my thinking, I would be able to see clear correlations between any factors. But that's not always the case, is it, Pavel? From what I've learned for you before. So, for example, if I have more touch points with a client, my chances are higher on winning. If that is true, then the other thing's true. Can we see all those correlations in the model?
Just give me a second to think how to respond to that. So you can see. So for sure, maybe I can go back actually to the model when and what is dropped out. Sorry for the inconvenience. Maurice, are you here?
Yes, I'm there. I wasn't there for a second, was I?
Yeah. I think our Siri made a mistake.
Siri kicked me out.
Okay, so when we look at the, let's get back to this demo, right, of this POC,
Yeah.
so where we can see how this works. So basically, when you play with it, sometimes the results you get are pretty obvious, right? So for example, with this, okay, I increase the number of calls. Let's say I decrease the number of lost opportunities, and like it's for you logical. Okay, the probability increases, but sometimes also when I played with it, it's like it's not so obvious, and the question is it really like a phenomenon? Is it really a correlation like that in real life? Or maybe it's some kind of a simplification of the model, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe the data is not accurate enough. So I wouldn't like so blindly try to learn at this POC stage, right? What are try to learn what are the correlations and took it blindly, right? Like this is really how this works, because it cannot be like that. It can be different in real life, right? So I think it comes. The thing I mentioned before is very important to plan how you're going to deploy it, how you're going to use it, how your sales team should use it, because they have significant amount of experience working with different customers, with different clients, and this experience I think have higher like importance than actually scoring by a machine.
Yeah. And if we follow the path there on a possible project for this, right? So what can someone expect in terms of time to start such a project? How long will I maybe will need to produce an MVP, to produce a POC, I mean, machine learning is about R&D, right? So, and it also always may be the case that you will not achieve the results that you want to achieve. But how much time would you need to basically have a first validation with a POC?
Yeah, first of all, Siri, could you hide slides?
Oh, the scores are also interesting. Yeah, maybe we can talk about that later when we have
Yeah, exactly. So typically we try to we have this time cap for the POC phase, and it's from 4 to 6 weeks, right? So in this time frame, let's say 4 weeks, also depends on the problem we are working on. If it's less or more complex, we focus on getting our hands, getting the data, checking the data, trying to understand, if it's possible. Also, we are doing a lot of reading papers, what other teams actually were able to accomplish with a specific problem. Then started working with the data, trying to build models, see what's available, right? So, as you can see from what I'm saying, it's like it's a try and error approach, right? We try something, we look at something, we analyze something, and try to get conclusions to see if for the data set that we have available and the problem we want to solve, if it's solvable, or if the performance of the end model will be good enough actually to deploy it in production. So yeah, it's R&D, and this is how we should approach it. And this is why we have this time cap, because we want to deliver first results and some have the first understanding if it's feasible in 4 to 6 weeks. And this is what I think it's a good practice. It's a typical process, I think, for many machine learning and data science teams. And then it depends on how you plan the whole experiment, how you're going to deploy the POC, how you're going to use it, test it in your processes, and also how you're going to collect data from those processes to see if you can if there's an improvement or maybe not, or maybe there's a decrease in performance, and how you're going to use this information to do another loop of experimentation, right?
And how important, Pavel, would be the tech stack that I'm having? So if I'm having a couple of different legacy systems, layers in place, whatever, if I'm a corporate company, is that a challenge, or are we basically pretty much tech agnostic when trying such?
So I think the challenge that we face the most often is getting access to data, especially if it's a corporate big company. There are many systems with different data that you need to get access to. So I think that's always a challenge, no matter if you're external company as we are for our clients or internal. But tech stack, you can always create a machine learning data science part on a site and connect it with your existing systems, right? So I think getting data, cleaning data, that's sometimes even up to 80%, takes even up to 80% of time when doing any data science project, right? So
okay, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Interesting. And Pavel, since we talked about it before a little bit, what have we found out during our research and producing the POC with regards to the confidence levels? You call it F1 scores, right?
Yeah, F1 scores, exactly. So, Siri, could you show our slides again?
Siri is working today.
Yeah, except she threw you out for a second. But getting back, so actually, so we tested different models, like random forest, support vector machine, and the light gradient boosting method, and we got the best result for the last one. And as the POC, as I mentioned, those were two models. First, that measure the score for SQL converting to opportunity, and then opportunity for the project. So we had different scores. F1 score, you can describe it as a confidence level of the model, or performance, to simplify performance of the model. So for the first conversion step, it was 87%, so very decent for a POC. And for the second stage, so up to project, so actually closing, winning a project, it was 82% confidence. So I would say for the POC, it's a very good result, right? So it's something you can even already start. You can already deploy and test it, some small scale, maybe with few people from your sales team, and you can start improving it in another iterations. Right?
What would be like an F1 score or confidence level that is, let's say, even more satisfactory, or that is perfect, so to say, to work with?
100%.
Okay, yeah. The question was a little bit too obvious, right? But 100% is not realistic, is it?
Yeah. I think it's already a very good score, but everything above 90% is, I think, is a very good.
Yeah.
But also it depends on the problem. So in the past, I worked on some healthcare and some diagnostic solutions that had, depending on the situation, but between 70-80%, and they are used in real life, and they are seemed as being very, very good solutions, right? It's again about whenever deploying or using such a solution is also to understand its limitations, right? And understand what it means, the score, what the score actually means, right? That you are getting.
Yeah, I believe it's super relevant. I mean, I'm working in sales or for sales also for long time now, different positions, different companies, and I think everyone also out there in sales knows the times still when you're working on any data in your CRM systems and you're asked to enter scores on your probability to win, right? So the question nowadays is why should, I mean, of course, a human should enrich this data. And basically, I think there's nothing that can interchange a human conversation with a prospect. Of course not. But I think the time is now really there to make use of more of our data. And that's also, I guess, the reason why we've done this exercise, Pavel, internally to boost our, to make more use of our data, right?
Yes, exactly. And there are also we are conducting other experiments internally, looking at how we can use the data that the company is collecting to improve other processes, like the key processes. I don't think I can discuss it, but yeah.
Okay.
And there's a question.
One is from Dominika. Pavel, could you please tell us something about the entrance to this process? If a company would like to start a journey with lead scoring, with ML, with machine learning, what would they need to know before? How to prepare for that? How do they prepare before the Pavel comes?
Prepare, I would say they need to, again, they need to have data from the sales, right? So that describes their sales funnel and what is happening in the sales funnel, how the sales team is working, actually what they are doing, what results are getting. So basically they need data from the CRM system, right?
Yeah.
That is filled consistently the same way with the same quality through the whole sales team, right? So that's the predominant requirement.
Okay. I think our audience is waking up, Pavel. There's another question from Katarzyna. Pavel, would you recommend machine learning to every company? And are there any specific guidelines when it is worth investing in such technology and when it's just a waste of money? I hope that's not the case, but maybe what's your take on that, Pavel?
So for sure, there's a lot of hype around machine learning and AI, right? And I think also that it's not always like machine learning is not always the right solution, right? It depends on the problem you want to solve. Sometimes what we recommend to our clients is we recommend some simpler heuristics solutions that already give them like 20-30% boost, and it's good enough, and it's much easier, less risky to implement and deploy. So I would say it really depends. It's hard to respond to so generic question.
Yeah, understandably. I mean, I think I said it lately that it's maybe part of the magic pill, but I guess it's not, of course, not the magic pill that you use machine learning for anyone. But the question really is, I mean, if there is such a magic pill that can solve some of the problems that it's worth to solve along the sales funnel, I think it's highly interesting to try such out, right? I mean, what we've seen now is we've looked at the identification of targets, building the ideal customer profiles, selecting the prospects, and then basically we can optimize our allocation of time of sales reps to the specific targets, right, that we do select and work basically on turning any lead into a qualified lead or a prospect or however you want to call it, to qualify maybe as an opportunity, and then of course to have our sales teams, account executives work on the very much the most promising opportunities.
Yeah. There's another question. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, another question from Dominika for you, Pavel. Does the company need to prepare that data, or does your team take care of the data, select data, and so on? So I guess it's a question of a typical project set up.
So typical projects. So whenever we start, we know what is the problem of the client that wants to solve. We design the whole system, how it should work, which data it should use. We look at the data. We do data audit. We manage all of this, but of course, the data needs to be there first, right? It's something we cannot do. So again, if we talk about this lead scoring, and there needs to be some kind of CRM system that collects all this data. But then from this part, we can take it and we do it, right? It's part of the process, part of a typical project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very good. Very good. Yes, so I think let me try to sum up a couple of things while we're waiting for any more possible questions from the audience, Pavel. So I think what was most interesting for me and possibly and hopefully also for the audience to learn is what we found out during building our POC for machine learning based lead scoring, is that we are able to, number one, augment the prospecting process, right? To be able to select better targets, therefore to increase our chances, probability to win, and also to, I mean, in the end, right, to select prospects which have a higher customer lifetime value. That's also something which we can basically assess already right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Second point around the lead scoring, right? So that we've learned we can optimize lead scoring by augmenting the selection of leads, of the most profitable, most promising leads. So we can basically take any criteria that we are having in our systems based on that, right? So, or is there any limits to it?
The limit is that it's additional factor, right? In deciding that's the limit.
Okay. I mean, the third thing most interesting for me was for this POC was how we can enrich the sales playbook overall, right? The sales playbook in general tells sales organizations, sales managers, and sales reps which sales activities are or should be executed during which time of the day, of the week, or of the month to increase conversion rates. So, for example, when's the best time to call, when's the best time to shoot an email, to send a follow-up email, and so on and so on. I think that's a really cool tool and cool, valuable help for any sales organization to augment any sales playbook.
Yeah, but again, it depends on the data that we are working on. So, for example, we in Netguru's data, we can find those patterns and get those insights and feed them to the sales team. But somebody else, some other company can also have a CRM, but maybe the data is not as broad, not as detailed, and we are not able to
documentation of data, right? So you need to have that your sales people do log their calls, that they do log communication.
Yeah, exactly, right? So, and then maybe the data is so poor that we are not able to find those patterns, right, in data.
Yeah.
So, but in general, it's a possibility, right?
Yeah, great. Thank you, Pavel. One more question from Jinder coming in. How can you judge the quality of data both needed and that an organization might have at hand? Is this a task for machine learning data scientists, or is there a way that someone with that knowledge can judge the quality? And so the question is around how to judge the quality of data. How do you know that the data that you're working with is good and produces valuable insights or not? Good question. Thank you, Jinder.
So actually, we learned that in the data preparation, cleanup, and exploratory data analysis. So those are the first steps in any project. So first, the data cleanup, you look at data and look if the data is complete, right? If for each, let's simplify it to an Excel sheet, right? So for each column, for each row, you have a value in the data. And very often you do not have, or you have columns with less than 20% or a bit more of data filled in, right? So that's one of the things you can say, you can look at. The second thing is you do the exploratory data analysis. And for example, when you have the lead scoring, you try to see if there's a correlation in data, right? So if any of the features that you have describing the client, the opportunity, if they in any way correlate with the output variable, right, that you want to predict. So this is the other step. Obviously, the quantity and quality, right?
Yeah.
Which you can assess, or the client can assess by themselves by just opening the CRM and looking at what they have in. But it's a step that the data scientists or machine learning engineers actually they do it at the beginning of the project, right?
Okay, understood.
And also, there's a chat. That's maybe the last comment is that there might be a situation, or there is a probability that we start the POC, we get data from client, we do those things that I just said, and we say to the client, sorry, but the data you have, it's not good enough. And instead of spending 4 or 6 weeks on it, after 1 week we say, sorry, but with this data it's not possible. We recommend you to actually, let's go a step back and make sure that you start collecting the right data in the proper way. And in a few months, when you collect some of them already, we can go back and start with this POC again, right? So this also is the possible scenario.
Yeah, that's just fair. Yeah. And second part of the question, Pavel, is this task? So maybe would Jinder, who maybe is not an ML data scientist, would he be able to do such a job himself without that knowledge, judging the quality?
So one of the ways you can check what data and in what quality you need is just by looking, just doing the search, looking for papers by other teams that publish they solved this problem with machine learning and how they did it, what data they use, and so forth. And based on that, you can try to assess what you have yourself. But I would say it's a task for data science team. Yeah.
Cool. Great. Thanks for the answers, Pavel. And thanks again for the good questions there, Jinder. Cool. So I have learned a lot from you today, Pavel. I hope this was also interesting for our audience. So maybe summing up, if you do have any further questions, comments to this, please leave them here directly on the LinkedIn event or contact us individually. Of course, we would be happy to get in contact with you for any of your current projects and to discuss what you're currently doing. Would be highly interesting for us. So yeah, thanks again. Thanks, Pavel, for your time. Thanks, Siri, for the background. Thanks, dear audience. And also, if you would like to see us talk about similar other questions, topics in the future, please let us know. Thank you, and talk soon. Bye-bye.